Hey everybody, welcome to the Hiding Out Loud podcast. My name is Michael, and today we're going to talk about the NBA championship coming up, and I have a special guest that's been on here before, Ara, or is it Ara? I always get it wrong. Which one is it?
Yo, Michael, it's Ara. You got it right this time. Stoked to be back on the Hiding Out Loud podcast. Let's get into this NBA championship. What's the vibe for the finals?
Okay, so I am a big Thunder fan, and it's going to start here on June 5th. I'm super excited. That's tomorrow. What are your initial thoughts, or what have you kind of gathered on the internet, I guess, about what this championship looks like?
So, as a Thunder fan, you must be hyped for tomorrow's tip-off. The vibe around the 2025 NBA Finals is electric. Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Indiana Pacers is shaping up to be a wild clash. The Thunder are coming in as heavy favorites, with their smothering defense and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's MVP-level play. They've got a killer 43-7 home record, and folks are buzzing about their physical, lockdown style. On the flip side, the Pacers are the underdog darlings, riding a wave of upsets with Tyrese Haliburton and Pascal Siakam leading their fast-paced offense. The chatter online leans hard toward OKC. Some are calling it a short series, like Thunder in 5. But Indy's got that scrappy, anything-can-happen energy. You feeling confident as a Thunder fan, or are the Pacers' upset vibes giving you any pause?
They're from the East, so I don't think they can even match anything that we've got. I know that they played some higher seeded teams to get to the finals, and we didn't play as high a seeded team, but I think the West overall is so much better that the seeds don't matter.
So you're all in on that Thunder dominance, huh? I hear you. The West is a meat grinder, so OKC battling through there says a lot, even if their playoff path had lower seeds. The Pacers, yeah, they took down some big dogs in the East, like the Knicks and Celtics, which shows they've got grit and firepower, with Haliburton dropping dimes. But you're right, the West's depth is brutal. OKC's battle-tested with Shai's clutch plays and that suffocating defense. You thinking it's a sweep, or they let Indy steal one?
I think they still won. I think it's considered a gentleman's sweep. I do think they end it in 5 back in Oklahoma City.
A gentleman's sweep? Love the confidence. Thunder wrapping it up in 5 back in OKC sounds like a plan. Shai and the crew locking it down on their home floor. You got any bold predictions for who's stepping up big for the Thunder in this series?
Obviously Shai is going to be amazing. I think his consistent play is going to be right there. I think he's Mr. Consistency. If you look at his, average of just over 30 points per game, he's pretty much there each game. He doesn't really have a 20-point night and then a 50-point night to offset it. It's usually pretty consistent in that 30-point range, but I do think that Jalen Williams could have, if he was consistently at about 25 points, I think that he could be a contender for the MVP for the finals. I also think that Chet has a good chance with his ability to guard the rim and shoot from further away, and being just over 7 foot tall makes him hard for any defense.
Oh, you're preaching with that Thunder love.
What are your thoughts on that?
Shai's Mr. Consistent. Totally with you on the Thunder's big 3 shining. Shai's steady 30-point nights are like clockwork. And if Jalen Williams cranks it up to 25 a game, he could absolutely steal the finals MVP spotlight with those clutch buckets. Chet's a nightmare matchup. 7 feet, swatting shots, and stroking threes. That's a game changer. I'm vibing with your gentleman's sweep call. But if Indy's running and gunning with Haliburton, OKC's going to need Chet's length to slow him down. You think Jalen or Chet makes the bigger splash in crunch time?
That's hard. That's a hard one. Jalen's given us all year. Pretty much, I think he was out just minorly for a small injury. Chet was sidelined with a pretty heavy injury. So I think the biggest surprise would be Chet to come out and kind of dominate to get the MVP. Jalen's probably more in line for that. Obviously, Shai is right now. I mean, he's in the forefront of if they win the championship to get the MVP.
Yeah, it's a tough call between those two. Jalen's been that reliable spark all season, barely missing a beat, so he's got the edge for consistency to maybe snag that finals MVP if he goes off. Chet, though, coming back from that injury and surprising everyone with a dominant run, Rim protection, stretch 5 vibes would be a wild card for the highlight reel. Shy's the safe bet for MVP if OKC closes it out, no doubt, with those silky 30-point nights. You leaning toward hoping for a Chet breakout or banking on Jalen's steady hand?
Honestly, I hope they both do well. I know that sounds like a lot. So if Shai gets 30 points a night, if we can get Jalen to 25, and if Chet's in that 25 range, which I think they could all be, there's a lot of buckets right there. That's a lot of points. It'd be hard for any team to overcome those three. But then whenever you look at it, they also have, Isaiah Joe. They've got Hartenstein. They've got Cason Wallace. They've got Caruso. They've got the other Williams. Their roster is just so deep. It's so hard for anybody to kind of overcome that. Is there any way that Indiana can overcome that with their bench?
Yo, you're dropping truth bombs with that Thunder depth. Shai at 30, Jalen and Chet both hitting 25. That's a scoring avalanche, tough for any team to keep up. Add in Isaiah Joe's flamethrower threes, Hartenstein's board crashing, Cason Wallace and Caruso's lockdown D, and Jalen Williams' versatility, and OKC's bench is a legit problem. Indiana's got a scrappy second unit, though. TJ McConnell's a pest with his hustle and playmaking, averaging solid minutes off the bench, and Benedict Mathurin can pop off for points when he's hot. Obi Toppin brings energy, but their bench isn't as deep. Posts online are saying OKC's second unit, with guys like Caruso and Wallace, has a defensive edge over Indy's. The Pacers' best shot is to outrun OKC, win the three-point battle, and pray Halliburton doesn't turn it over against that pesky Thunder D. You think Indy's fast-paced style can keep pace, or does OKC's depth just smother them?
I think people forget that Oklahoma City kind of hung their hat on a fast pace. They do the breakouts. They have the steals that lead to fast break points. They can cover you the full 90 feet. Look at the last season or the last series whenever Dort came out and challenged who he was guarding a full 90 feet, and it's hard for them to go through that. I don't see how Indiana can get through that. Even with their fast-paced offense, I think Oklahoma has too much of a stifling defense. I think it's going to be really hard for them to generate a whole lot of fast-paced offense against Oklahoma City.
You're so right. People sleep on OKC's tempo. The Thunder's fast break game is lethal, with those steals turning into quick buckets, and guys like Dort hounding ball handlers for a full 90 feet. That defensive pressure, especially from Dort, Caruso, and company, is a nightmare. Last series showed how they can choke an offense dry. Indiana's fast-paced attack relies on Halliburton pushing the pace and hitting threes, but OKC's length and speed, with Chet patrolling the paint and Shai picking pockets, might just suffocate them. Indy might try to run, but Thunder's transition D and depth could turn it into a track meet. OKC wins. You see Halliburton finding any cracks in that defense, or is it Thunder's pace and pressure all the way?
I think Halliburton will have moments. I think that he's going to get numbers. I don't think they're going to be the numbers that he's used to. I think his assist total is going to go way down from where his average is, and I think that's kind of where we need to look at. I think that they rely on a lot of assists from Halliburton, and I just don't think that they can penetrate that Oklahoma defense, especially the interior, just by passing it in. They've got too many fast hands. They're like cats on a defensive side where they're always swatting at things.
Love the cat analogy. OKC's defense is like a pack of quick-pawed panthers. You're spot on about Halliburton. He'll probably flash some brilliance, but with Thunder's fast hands and length, like Chet swatting shots and Dort's full-court press, his assist numbers could take a hit. Indy leans hard on Tyrese's playmaking, averaging around 8 assists, but OKC's active D, stealing and disrupting passing lanes, might force him into tougher shots or turnovers. Siakam and Mathurin might get some buckets, but if OKC clogs the paint and cuts off Halliburton's dimes, Indy's offense could stall. You think the Pacers try to counter with more ISO plays, or just keep forcing the pass against that swarm?
I think they'll try the ISO game. I think they'll try to spread out Oklahoma City on defense as much as possible, so that they don't have the defender close by that can do the swat. That's kind of what makes Oklahoma City so good, is that they'll have a good on-ball defender, but they have so much help coming from the other defenders near them. So if you're driving and you've got somebody covering you, but you go right by Isaiah Joe or right by Caruso, that ball's going to get touched. They're going to find a way to get their hand on that ball.
Oh, you nailed it. OKC's help defense is a total game wrecker. Indy trying to spread the floor with ISO plays makes sense. They'll want to pull guys like Chet or Hartenstein away from the paint to open driving lanes for Halliburton or Siakam. But with Thunder's on-ball hounds like Dort and sneaky help defenders like Caruso or Isaiah Joe ready to swipe, those ISO moves could turn into turnovers fast. OKC's knack for collapsing with those quick hands, like you said, always getting a paw on the ball, is brutal. You think Indy's got any shooters who can stretch OKC enough to loosen that help D, or are they just going to get trapped in OKC's web?
I think they're going to try for the three ball, but I think that the three ball is just not going to be there. I think they're going to face so much adversity on the defensive side that it's going to ruin their confidence, and the threes just aren't going to fall for them, especially when Oklahoma City starts getting rolling on fast break points, because Indiana's a little sloppy with the ball. You know, they give up a lot of steals.
Yeah, Indy's going to chuck those threes, but you're right. OKC's suffocating D could shake their confidence big time. The Pacers' game plan hinges on hitting from deep, with guys like Halliburton and Mathurin trying to stretch the floor. But if OKC's closing out fast and forcing tough shots, those triples might not drop. Plus, Indy's sloppiness, giving up steals like you said, feeds right into OKC's fast break machine. Shai, Jalen, and company could turn those turnovers into a layup line, crushing Indy's morale. You think there's any chance the Pacers tighten up their ball handling to slow OKC's transition, or are they just doomed to get run off the court?
You know, they really haven't shown it this point in the season, so I don't think anything is going to change now to where they tighten up that ball handling skill. I think you're right. I think they're going to try ISO plays. They're going to try to get people out on an island, but I just think they're too carefree with the ball. They lose it too often. In Oklahoma, it's like they have to have the ball in their hands. So they're going to do whatever they can on defense to get it, even if it's swiping away and then somebody else grabbing it. So their team defense is just too good.
Totally agree. Indy's been loose with the ball all season, and expecting them to suddenly tighten up now feels like a stretch. Their ISO-heavy plan to isolate OKC's defenders might backfire when the Thunder's Team D, those swiping hands and help rotations, pounces. OKC's like a pack of wolves out there, hunting for steals, with guys like Caruso and Dort diving for loose balls and sparking fast breaks. Indy's carefree passing and dribbling is just asking for Shai or Jalen to feast in transition. You think there's any one pacer who might step up to protect the ball, or is OKC's defense just going to eat them alive no matter what?
I think they're getting eaten up. I don't think there's any real way other than an injury on the Oklahoma City side for Indiana to be able to pull this victory off for 4 games anyway. They may get, I think they'll get one victory. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a full sweep, but I do think that Indiana will at least get one victory. I just don't think that they can get 4 victories from Oklahoma City.
Yeah, sounds like you're calling it a Thunder feast. OKC's defense is just too relentless, and barring some bad luck like an injury, Indy's going to struggle to keep up. I'm with you on the gentleman's sweep vibe. One win for the Pacers feels possible, maybe when Halliburton gets hot for a night or they hit a crazy number of threes. But 4 wins? Nah. OKC's depth and hunger make that a tall order. You think that one Indy win comes at home with their crowd hyping them up, or could they steal one in OKC's house?
Oh, I don't think there's any way they still won in Oklahoma City's house. I think if anything, it's probably game 3 that they would steal a victory, and I don't think it's going to be Halliburton. I don't think it's going to be somebody that you know that's going to have the breakout game for Indiana that kind of gives them maybe a possible steal victory. I think it's going to be somebody that's not necessarily always focused on, somebody that's probably young that just kind of feels the moment and starts hitting some buckets. If you look at Oklahoma City's defense, it's always been somebody that wasn't one of the star players that's given them problems.
Oh, I love the call on game 3 for Indy's shot. You're so right. OKC's house is a fortress, with that 43-7 home record and the crowd going wild, so stealing one there feels like a long shot. Indy snagging a win at home probably in Game 3 when they're settled in, makes sense. And a young, under-the-radar pacer stepping up is a great shout. Someone like Benedict Mathurin or even Andrew Nemhard, who's had clutch moments before, could catch fire and surprise OKC's D. Those unsung guys often sneak through when the Thunder lock in on stars like Halliburton or Siakam. Who's your pick for that breakout pacer to flip the script for one game?
I don't know that I have a pick for somebody that's not Halliburton necessarily to have a breakout game, but a plane just flew through, and I don't know that it interrupted enough or it interrupted too much from when you were talking, so I'll have to look at that. But that does bring me to the point where last night Oklahoma City had a bunch of severe weather come through. We had some tornadoes, a lot of thunder, and Indiana was flying in. They had to stop in Tulsa and hope that the storm passed by, and it wasn't going to. So they actually had to try and fly around the storm, almost going to Dallas and back around up to get to Oklahoma City. I think that's going to put a mental issue with them because they're coming here to play the Thunder, and as they roll in, what happens? A severe thunderstorm.
Oh man, that plane buzzing by was like Oklahoma's weather saying, "Welcome to the chaos, Indy." You're so right about that wild travel day messing with the Pacers' heads. Flying into a literal storm with tornado warnings popping off near OKC and their plane detouring to Tulsa, then looping near Dallas just to land 3.5 hours late? That's gotta be mentally draining. Touching down after dodging twisters and thunder only to face the Thunder's defense? Talk about a rough welcome. OKC's intense home vibe plus that exhausting travel could rattle Indy's focus, especially for Game 1 tomorrow. You think that jet-lagged, stormy night ordeal gives OKC an even bigger edge early in the series?
Oh, totally. I think mentally it's got to mess with the team coming in, especially playing Oklahoma City Thunder that, they are the Thunder. That's who they are. Also, I think that we're going to have some more weather come through, possibly even tomorrow. So I think that people not from Oklahoma that come here, it freaks them out. And I have a feeling that it's going to weigh on the minds of the Indiana players.
Oh, that's just too perfect. Indiana rolls into town, greeted by literal thunder for the Thunder. That stormy welcome, with tornadoes and delays, has got to spook a team not used to Oklahoma's wild weather. And if more storms hit tomorrow, like you're saying, that's another mental hurdle for the Pacers. OKC players are probably chilling, used to the chaos, while Indy's looking out the hotel window, stressing about tornado warnings. That home crowd roaring and OKC's defense swarming could hit even harder with the Pacers rattled. You think any specific Indy player might crack under that pressure? Or is it a team-wide vibe check?
I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Halliburton to perform. So if anybody's going to crack, I think it's probably going to be him, just from the weight of all the stress of being the leader of the team, and then just what Oklahoma City gives you as far as being nagging and persistent and always on you on the defensive side. Plus, with the storms and the weather, I think it's a perfect storm for things to go Oklahoma City's way.
Yo, a literal and figurative perfect storm for OKC. That's such a great way to put it. Halliburton's got the weight of the world on him as Indy's leader, trying to orchestrate against OKC's relentless D with guys like Dort and Caruso in his face all game. Add in the mental toll of that stormy travel and more weather looming, and yeah, he might just crack under the pressure, maybe forcing bad passes or missing those open threes he usually nails. OKC's persistence and that wild Oklahoma weather could have Indy shook early. You thinking Halliburton's turnovers pile up in Game 1, or does he hold it together for a bit before the Thunder's pressure gets him?
Oh, I think Indiana loses control of this game right in the beginning. This whole series right in the beginning. I think that Oklahoma City and their fans, being on the stage of the finals, I know that Oklahoma City hasn't been there. Indiana hasn't been there with their roster. Nobody, they haven't been there in years as far as the finals. So I don't know how their youth and inexperience is going to bring them out of this, going into Thunder's home for the first two games, and the crowd noise and the relentless defense, the unbelievable offense they offer. There's just no way that Indiana can pull this off.
Oh, you're bringing the heat with that take. OKC's going to come out swinging, fueled by that rabid home crowd and the final spotlight. Both teams are young and hungry, but Indy's inexperience, walking into OKC's Paycom Center with that deafening noise, plus the Thunder's relentless D and Shai's silky offense, could absolutely bury them early. Game 1's probably a blowout, with OKC feeding off the energy and Indy reeling from the travel and weather chaos. The Thunder's never been to the finals with this core, but they play like veterans. You think Indy's youth folds completely in those first 2 games, or do they maybe scrap together some fight by Game 2 before OKC takes over?
I think right now they're crying home to mom. I think that that these guys, had this weather issue last night, and they probably got in late. They probably didn't get the dinner that they wanted, and they're kind of bougie. NBA basketball players are, but yeah, I think they all probably cried home to mom because they were scared of the weather, and just like being at camp, they're like, I'm ready to come home. So I don't think they're going to be focused on these 2 games. I think their best chance, again, like I said, is going to be Game 3 when they get back home and they can put that thumb and pacifier back in their mouth.
Oh man, you're savage with that one. Indy crying home to mom, sucking their thumbs after dodging tornadoes. That late night storm delayed arrival probably had them rattled, missing their fancy dinners and all that bougie NBA vibe. OKC's crowd and defense are going to hit like a freight train in games 1 and 2. And with the Pacers mentally checked out, picturing them homesick like kids at camp is too good. Game 3 at home might give them a comfort zone to regroup. Like you said, with the crowd and some pacifier level security. You think any Pacer, maybe Siakam with his vet experience, can shake off the spook and keep them focused? Or are they all just rattled babies for the first 2?
I think the vets get super frustrated with the younger players on Indiana because they're just going to be young and inexperienced. And I don't know that the Indiana has a cohesive group like Oklahoma City does. I don't think that any team probably has a cohesive group like Oklahoma City does. They look like they're having fun. They look like they're kids in college, but they're playing NBA high-level style basketball. So I just don't think that even having a veteran like that on your team is going to help in this situation. I just don't really think that's going to be possible. Now, one question that I do have for you is, what are the betting odds right now with Oklahoma City versus Indiana? Can you look at that and tell me kind of what the odds are if you're a betting person?
Yo, you're so right about OKC's vibe. They're like a college squad having a blast, but balling at an elite NBA level. That cohesion, with Shai, Jalen, and Chet all locked in, makes them a nightmare to face. Indy's vets like Siakam might get fed up trying to herd the young cats, especially if Halliburton and the crew are rattled from the jump. That lack of team glue could sink them against OKC's brotherhood. As for the betting odds for the 2025 NBA Finals, the Thunder are heavy favorites. At BetMGM, OKC is at 700 to win the series, with the Pacers as .525 underdogs. Some spots, like ESPN Bet, have OKC at 750 and Indy at 530. For Game 1 tomorrow, OKC is a 9-point favorite with a total points line around 229.5 to 231, depending on the sportsbook. Posts on X also peg OKC with about an 85% chance to take the title, while Indy's at 15%. Wow. Sounds like a tough bet for Pacers fans, but that one home game upset you mentioned could have juicy odds. You thinking about putting a little something on the Thunder sweep or that Game 3 Indy steal?
Probably not. My heart's too into it, and not that I'm a gambler. I don't gamble really, but I do know that if your heart's too into it, you need to leave your pocket in. You need to leave your wallet in your pocket and not bring that out.
Smart move. When your heart's all in for the Thunder like that, keeping the wallet in your pocket is the way to go. Don't let the fandom cloud the bets. OKC's looking strong with those odds, though, so you can just sit back and enjoy the show. You think the Thunder's vibe and that home crowd energy are going to carry them to a quick closeout? Or is Indy's Game 3 fight going to stretch it a bit?
No, I still think it's Game 5. I think it's 5 games. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if it's 4 games. I kind of think that Indiana has enough fight in them and enough good players that they will make that Game 3 a little bit of a struggle and then possibly pull a tight one, a close game off. I don't think it'll be a blowout if Indiana wins. I think it's going to be something close if they can pull that off. But yeah, so we're getting ready. So that game's going to be tomorrow. And if you don't mind, I'd like to come back to you and talk to you after that first game and kind of see if we were right and kind of if we need to change our expectations or thoughts on the game. So I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much for coming on to the Hiding Out Loud podcast to share some of these ideas and kind of rap with me a little bit on this.
Yo, I'm locked in on your Game 5 call. Thunder closing it out strong, with Indy maybe sneaking that tight Game 3 win, like you said, in a nail-biter. No blowout for the Pacers. They'll have to scrap for it with some clutch plays. Tomorrow's Game 1 is going to set the tone, and I'm totally down to hop back on the Hiding Out Loud podcast after to see if OKC's living up to the hype or if Indy's got some tricks up their sleeve. Had a blast rapping with you about this. Thanks for having me. Let's do it again post-game and break it all down. You hyped for tip-off?
I'm ready. Okay, so that's it for the show. I do appreciate Grok being on here. Ara going to be on here with us. And yeah, we'll see where this goes. So stay tuned. Come back and we'll see if Oklahoma City can pull this off. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.